Produced by Podcast Architects.
Hi, this is Channa Borman here with Straight Talk and Honest Advice. This is a podcast that I started to explore a person's journey in making a decision to get a divorce and what that divorce process looks like, and then how does someone rejoin the land of the singles and get back into their groove, I guess, after divorce is finished. And I started this podcast so we could explore these things because I feel like people will really benefit hearing other person's feelings and struggles. Feeling like you're alone in the feelings that you're experiencing is really isolating. And I think if people could share, they would probably be able to make the decision a little bit easier. And so today I'm here with my friend Dianne. So Dianne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to talk to you today, Dianne, about your personal journey. Right. So can you tell our viewers what your journey was like in, making the decision ultimately to file, and then what were the struggles?
Okay. First struggle was knowing that I should have been divorced over 20 years ago. And I, I think within a couple of years of being married, I realized that this was not a really good relationship or marriage. But I stuck with it because I had 4 children and I needed to, watch them, to take care of them. And hopefully, I'm such an optimist that I felt like things would get better. And I guess it wasn't the case. It just progressed and got a little bit worse. And 20 years ago, I think that's when I had enough. And I wanted to get a divorce then. But I let fear stop me from getting the divorce. And it was the fear of not knowing if I would be financially independent, um, fear of not knowing where I would live. It was a stupid thing in my mind that said, I can't get a divorce yet because I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't want to live here. Where do I want to live? And believe it or not, just that one little thing kept me from moving forward, because if I don't know where I'm going to live, well, there's no sense in me even getting a divorce.
Right.
And that fear, it just really paralyzed me and kept me from moving forward. And then here it is 20 years later. And I finally realized that I have just a short period of time now for the rest of my life to do what I have always wanted to do, but I let fear stop me from doing it.
Mhm.
So it's I knew that this was something that I had to do for myself, bar none. I just now I'm just
It
lost
was
for
time for
words.
you.
Huh.
It was time for you.
It was, and I remember you. It was time for me, and I know for us as women, more so than with men, that we are givers and nurturers. So we spend most of our life with our children and our families, giving to them, and we spend little time giving to ourselves and finding out what is good for ourselves.
Mhm.
We are so rushed in this day and age that we don't spend that contemplative time that we need to be spending on and looking at ourselves and our lives. I'm not saying that as being selfish, but we need to be a little bit of selfish about ourselves.
Mhm.
It's an imperative.
That's right. I mean, self-reflection, what they say in those airplanes is so true. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can put it on your kids,
There you
right?
go.
You have to save yourself. Who's going to save you if you don't?
That's it.
Right?
Because there's nobody there that's going to catch you.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And when it comes to time to make that choice to say, I have to put the oxygen mask on myself, the fears that you have allowed for so long to paralyze you.
They disappear.
Right.
They disappear. And I'm not saying it's just like in one step it all disappears, because that's not true.
Mhm.
I think that you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That you can see that this step, deciding on divorce, is the hardest that you will ever have to do. I spent many hours contemplating it, praying over it. And I finally realized that this is what I needed to do for me to have a better life.
Mhm.
And I think also for my husband to have a good life for himself, because it's doesn't take just one person to make a marriage or to make a divorce. It's two.
Mhm.
So, there were things that I did that was aggravating to him.
Mhm.
So getting the divorce is actually better for him too, believe it or not.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I mean, your kids say to you, "You deserve better." Well,
mhm.
so does my husband,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So, you know, um, but once I filed for the divorce, there was a sense of inner peace and knowing that I have now this whole last half of my life to do what I want, how I want to do it. And one of my big things on my bucket list was to learn how to kayak. And within a couple of months after filing for divorce, I went out and kayaked for the first time.
Go
And that
girl.
was, yeah, and it was like I had let fear determine that I couldn't do that. I just, there's no way. But I did it.
You
And
did
then it
it.
was like, this is such a joy. I'm going to do it all the time. I'm buying me a kayak.
Right, right. And this what is it about that, why would you say I can't kayak?
Hmm.
Right? Why did you allow that? I'm married, I'm unhappy, so that unhappiness pervades to everything,
Everything,
right?
everything.
You
Yeah.
just deny yourself
Hmm.
joy. You
Yeah.
deny yourself the things that could possibly make you happy because you're in such a bad
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Mentally, you're in a really bad place.
Mhm,
And you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
mhm,
But I think you need to focus on what would happen if you filed for divorce. What would your life look like?
exactly.
You know,
So
that
true.
that, you know, you have to keep the positivity in there. Um, and that will help you. And I think another thing that helps you in the divorce is also the support that you get.
Mhm, mhm.
So from whomever. Like I remember you telling me you do you have a tribe?
Need a tribe. Everybody needs a tribe. That's exactly right.
And I think that that's a very good definition of what it is that we need to help us to get through. We've already made the decision to divorce. So then the next step is having the support around you that will keep you focused on going forward, you
Mhm.
know?
Looking for the future,
Yes.
looking for that better.
Yes,
What's
absolutely.
better?
Yeah.
Once you make the decision, there comes, you mentioned the sense of peace,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Did you find that it was almost as though it was the first time you had made a decision for yourself that you knew set you up for that better
Oh,
future?
yes. Yes.
And was there a sense of self-worth that came from that?
Yes, very much so. I was never really, in a lot of ways, able to make a decision about anything. In my pre-divorce life, I was only, I mean, I could give input, but I was very rarely looked to make a decision about anything.
Mm,
So getting walking through the divorce, it's allowed me to know that I am capable of making these decisions, and I've got years of experience behind me. So yes, I'll probably trip and fall a couple of times, but that's okay because I've got people there
mm,
that will pick me up and help me to go on.
mhm. How empowering.
Yes,
Right?
very
What
much
an
so.
empowering decision to have
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
after 43 years,
Yeah. No.
right? After 43 years of feeling less than
Yeah.
powerful to
Yes.
now come into a place of power, to now
Mm.
come into a place of value, right?
Yes. Yes.
How have you been I guess met in not just the tribe, right? Not the
Okay.
ones who are in support of you,
Mhm.
but how have you been met otherwise? Like how have other people taken your decision? You have adult children.
Uh,
How's that gone?
well, we want to just focus on the kids. That was a very difficult, and they were very angry with me um, when they first thought that I was the first thing was I was sneaky and I didn't tell anybody in the family that I was filing for divorce. So they got offended because I didn't say anything and I didn't tell their father uh, that I was filing for divorce. And so there was the anger from that and then it just progressed and got incredibly worse, which I was not expecting at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are the same kids that told me for many years, Mom, you and Dad need to get a divorce. You are not happy with each other. You need to get a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the bad person.
Right. You're seen as the villain
Yes.
when really what you're doing is something they expected
Yeah.
the
A
entire
long
time they were
time
growing up.
ago. And I still, I mean, it's been almost a year since we filed for divorce. And I still have a couple of my kids that are not talking to me for whatever reason. And the f- I when they started accusing me and attacking me, told them, I said, this is a really difficult time for me. Could you please just back off, not interfere? This is not a divorce from you or
Mm-hmm.
divorce from anybody else in the family. It's a divorce between your dad and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. You should not be affected one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But for some incredible reason, they were affected.
Has that made you question your decision any? Have you experienced any self-doubt as a
No,
result
it
of that?
actually made me angrier. That really, I was angry and sad at the same time because I was angry. It's like, wait a minute, all these years you've been telling me to get a divorce, and then I get it, and now you're mad at me for this. It there's no, it's a catch-22. You're
Mm-hmm.
damned if you do and damned if you don't,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's what happened. And I'm hoping and praying that eventually the kids who I call them kids, they're all in their 40s, but I hope to God that one day they will realize exactly.
Well, I hope they don't have to realize it like you realized it,
Yeah.
because karma's a bitch.
Yeah.
If they have to go through what you went through, you certainly don't want that, right?
I know.
Right.
And I I wouldn't have to lay that on them. I wouldn't want that to happen to them.
Right. Right.
But yeah, the kids were probably the worst ones. I mean, some friends that I spoke with were, I can't believe you're doing this, but it wasn't a condemnation so much as, gee, I thought you guys were happy, and
Right.
you know,
The front.
yeah, and we do present a very very good front.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've been doing it for years.
For sure. For sure. The most dysfunctional families present as perfect.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Oh boy, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You don't know what happens behind closed doors.
No, no.
In your particular situation, Diane, did you find that um, after you filed, the dimensions of your relationship with your spouse changed?
It actually did, which is the
Mhm.
most amazing thing.
Mhm.
Um, at the beginning, he was very angry at me, and just didn't want to do anything. He was just going to be a pain in my butt. But over these many months, the dynamic of our relationship as husband and wife, and soon to be ex-husband, ex-wife, changed to one of, we're the best of friends.
Is that right?
And kid you not, it's just the strangest thing. Um, he's been very kind, and I guess I've been very kind to him too. So I was totally floored. I think maybe it's because I wasn't angry the whole time, all these going through the divorce process, that I didn't show him a lot of anger, except maybe in the first when he was very angry at me.
Mhm.
But after that, it evolved into, this is the life, this is what's going to happen. And he would try to interfere and say something like what he used to say before. And I would just ignore him.
Mhm.
And boy, that felt good. But
Mhm. Mhm.
but I think he realized that I have evolved into a different person. And I think he likes this different person better than the the one before, the filing of the
Isn't
divorce.
that interesting?
It's very strange. It is very strange, but it makes for a good working relationship between the two of us
Right.
going through the divorce. I think the worst thing that you can do is to have this animosity between yourself and your ex. It doesn't solve anything. In fact, it makes matters worse.
Right.
If you can find in your heart to be kind to each other, that things will settle and be better for both parties.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just my own view of what I've seen.
I've had so many clients tell me the exact same thing, Diane.
Yeah.
That they're much better friends with their former spouse than they ever were friends as spouses,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I have to wonder if that isn't because they're coming from a place of more equality at
Yeah.
that point, you know?
Absolutely. I agree with you on that
You think
one.
so?
Yes.
I mean, maybe that's what it is in your situation.
Mhm.
Now he sees you as not
Yeah.
a lesser,
Yeah, I
you
think
know.
he's always thought that, I'm too kind and I'm so naive and I just believe the best in people.
Mhm.
And so I mean everything, that's the way he believed before divorce. After divorce, it's like I took control of my life and have made decisions that, he would never allow me to make to begin with.
And he never would have
And
thought you'd make.
yes, exactly. And it's all of a sudden he's seeing this assertive person that can, I am optimistic. I don't dispute that at all. And I am naive because I believe in the goodness of people. That's who I am.
Mhm.
And I will always be that way. But I'm not stupid either.
Mhm.
I do have a brain in my head and I can look at things and determine if it's good for me or bad for me. And I think before then
He didn't see that part
he
of you.
didn't see that part at all. No.
Well, I love that for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love myself.
Well, of course you do. But I'm just saying. I mean, I love that he's actually seeing that.
Yeah.
That his eyes are open enough to be able to see that.
Yes.
And what's interesting to me is that he's seeing that, but your kids aren't.
No.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, they're not there most of the time. I have one that is around us and she's actually changed her view. I don't know if it's all the way, but I think the divorce affects her the most in what goes on because she works for us.
Mm-hmm.
And she may not have a job after this. So I can understand her um, resentment and her anger more than I understand the other one's
Right. Mm-hmm.
anger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she's come around and become. I can talk to her again like I once was. She used
Good.
to be my best friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know that was a big loss at
Yeah,
one point.
very
Yes.
much so.
Yes. Hurtful loss.
Very,
Mm-hmm.
very.
What advice would you give to parents of adult children who might be contemplating this? Do you have any words of wisdom in that respect? Should they allow their adult children's fears or reluctance or kind of resentment to impact their decisions?
No, I think that the decision should be between you and your spouse, and that you should not allow your children to get in the middle of it. There is no reason for them to be there. It's just they want to have their opinion heard, and it should not have any effect on your decision or your spouse's decision. They need to just stay off to the side and wait for everything to blow over.
That's good
And
advice at
then,
any age.
yeah, no
Right?
joke.
I mean, any age. What divorce is hard. It can lead to better things though,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
What would you describe as kind of the things that you are looking forward to?
Oh God. Well, first thing is moving. I actually have a place to move to.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be living with or around my siblings. And that is a great thing for me. I've always enjoyed being with my siblings. We travel together. So, I'm looking forward to traveling as a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Um I'm there's just to me the world is the opportunities to enjoy your life are endless.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be out there and make yourself available to whatever comes your way. And that's what I'm looking forward to. When this divorce is finally over and done with, I've already started the place that I'm moving to, I already have a membership at the gym. I have a trainer there. I have joined a book club from there. So and also kayaking with my niece and her husband.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all of these things that are waiting for me when the divorce is final, and getting a house,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
this is, I have nothing but joy to look forward to.
These opportunities that you just have to reach out and grasp,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
they're there.
Yeah,
They're
they're there.
there.
And it's more than just envisioning them. You're not just sitting in your room saying, I would like to be, I don't know, for me, a size 6 and,
Yeah.
cute, right? I would like to, these are things that you wanted,
Yes.
and you've set yourself up now because you pursued the book club. You
Yes.
found a
Mhm.
trainer. You
Mhm.
found that, you found the place
Mhm.
for you to enjoy yourself.
I just determined that I wasn't going to let fear rule my life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That if I want to enjoy the rest of my life, then fear has to be on the back burner, and my wants and my needs and become first and foremost. And what would I like to try next, and where would I like to go next?
Mm-hmm.
That's, to me, that's very important to my mental health, and moving on with my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I'm excited for you.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited for myself.
Is there anything you would now, right,
Mm.
looking back, tell your younger self? What would you tell her? What would you tell Dianne from 20 years ago? Maybe even Dianne from 30 years ago?
Hmm. The one thing is just don't be afraid. Don't be willing to step out, and be willing to take on whatever comes, whatever battles are there. Be willing to do your best for yourself. I, you know, to
Mhm.
to look out for yourself. Um, it wasn't always the for me that I did that,
Mhm.
and I would wish that I did.
Isn't that the lesson we want for our kids,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I always kind of think when I'm talking to clients, I say to them, what example are you setting for your children,
Mhm.
right? What example as a wife, what treatment should she expect from her husband, or
Yeah,
what treatment should she give,
right.
or he,
Mhm.
and I think that kind of is also where you're coming from
Mhm.
here, right?
Yes.
What do you deserve? What did you deserve then?
More than what I got.
Hmm. 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 It's
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
right?
it really is. Um, but again, I look at it, that's the past, and I I'm I have to keep my focus going
Forward.
forward.
Hmm.
Absolutely
Hmm.
forward, because that will help you through the divorce process more than anything else. And it's hope, hope of a better life,
Hmm.
a hope of whatever you're looking forward to doing. So I just encourage people to focus on what's going ahead, not what they're leaving behind. But as in anything, the experience that you have behind you will help you with whatever you're going into now. It's we don't want to dismiss the history of our life, but we do want to take that with us to remind us of what we shouldn't do,
Mm.
or shouldn't accept for ourselves as humans. So, you know, that's just where I am.
You take your past as a lesson for the future, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want that anymore,
Hmm.
and I want more of this. Like more,
Hmm.
I want more salt. I
Yeah.
want less pepper. I
Exactly.
want
Yeah.
more great treatment. I want less conflict.
Yes.
I
Yes.
want more happiness. I want less sadness.
Hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And when you were looking for a lawyer, Dianne, going through that process, what were the things that you thought you needed?
Oh, wow. I know the process of looking for a lawyer is just probably one of the hardest things. Uh, I went. I didn't want to ask my friends because I didn't want them to know that I was considering a divorce. Um, so I went online and Googled
Dr. Google knows
the
all.
the top 10 divorce lawyers in this area. And then I went to the top 3 lawyers, and you were in the top 3. And I looked at the websites of each one. And I have to tell you that yours struck me the best. Number one, because of all the advice that you gave on your website with all the different videos that you had, that you offered, the fact that you were, to me, very, very straightforward in what you were talking about, and the honesty was very evident, and there was no BS. And I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I can't stand lawyers that's going to sit there and BS me just so they can make the price go up. It's I want somebody who's going to be honest, who's going to tell me, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. If you do this, you can save money. If you don't do this,
Mhm.
we're going to have to charge you.
Mhm.
So, and I think even your website, it says, well, if you do all of this stuff, and it's there, it's written, then you won't have to pay as much when you come in to see us.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and I think that was probably one of the things. Plus, I looked at your background and your history of being a lawyer, and that also struck me. And I think it was, you were in law school, and you were on, was it a court? Was it a moot court or
Yes.
something?
Yes.
And I thought, okay, I know this. This is good. Okay. So I looked at all of that, and I thought, this is the person for me, because the other websites that I went to um were just very dull and boring.
Just very
They
dull and
just
boring.
it was. I mean, it was just your standard, I'm a divorce attorney and I can save you money.
Mhm.
Just, I didn't want that. I wanted someone that I felt could fight for me, be my friend. I mean, I look at you and you have just been like all of these things. You have been the friend, the support group, the cheerleader. I mean, it's just, I mean, you wear so many hats and you do it so well.
You're kind. You're
And
kind.
no, well, I truly, really, really appreciate and what you have done for me personally. I mean, it's just, I never thought that I would find a lawyer that gave a darn. I'd rather say gave a damn, but I
Well,
guess we
yes,
can't say
it gave a damn. Yeah.
that.
Well, no. I mean,
You-
if you're in my
well,
house, you were going to say gave a
no.
damn, right? You know that. You know that.
But I just, people so often just rely on everybody's interpretation of what a good divorce lawyer is. And I think sometimes you need to get out and meet the lawyer first before you make up your mind if this lawyer is
Mhm.
good for you.
Mhm.
And I know it costs a penny to go in and see the lawyer, but it's well worth your time and your money.
Mhm.
Um, I knew as soon as I met you the first time, it's like, oh, damn, there she is. That's my girl.
This is such an interesting conversation to have with you because you have a son who's a lawyer.
Yes, I do.
And so what advice do you give your son? You need to be this kind of lawyer. You need to have this on
Yeah.
your website.
Oh, and we talk about this, the honesty of a lawyer, because most people, when you think of lawyer, you don't think of honest. I
Right.
mean, for
Well,
most,
straight talk and honest advice, honey. That's our deal.
exactly, and that's it, and that's you. And this is what I reiterate to my son. I said, the best thing that you can do for people, for your clients, is to be honest and straightforward with them. I said, that's how you get more clients.
Mhm.
When you are dissembling and hiding things, and not giving the true fact of what's going to happen, then you'll end up not having any more clients. I think the greatest thing, I remember asking you, well, how much do you think this will cost, for the divorce? And you absolutely, to a T, said it'll cost you this much. And I'm going, holy cow, she just told me. Because most lawyers won't. They'll say, well, it could be this number, but then again, it could be this number. So, there's that dissembling again of not giving a legitimate response to your query.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So I like that. I like the honesty, the straightforwardness. I don't like anything that's couched in $50 words that nobody can understand.
But Diane, not everyone wants to hear something they don't want to hear.
That's true,
You
but
know?
sometimes they need to hear it.
No, absolutely. I think everyone needs to hear
Yeah.
what is true, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
not everybody wants to hear that.
That's
And
true.
so giving the honest advice, I think, is a lot of times the hardest part,
Yes.
the hardest thing to do,
Yes.
because blowing smoke is much easier. Telling you what you want to hear is much easier.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, don't you think?
Yeah. You're
probably how you
absolutely
spent
right.
43 years.
Yeah.
Telling him what he wanted to hear was how you spent 43 years, right?
Yes.
But I mean, that's taking that path where you're going to give somebody the straight up,
Mhm.
honest truth. That's the harder path,
I think so.
right?
I think
But
so.
finding somebody that does that, I think I agree with you. I think it's critical.
I think for me in my own dealings with people, I've always been honest and straightforward.
Mhm.
And I expect that of the people that I know or that I meet, hopefully. And I knowing you and meeting you the first time, it's like there was just this click, and everything fell into place. And I go, she's it. She's that person. She's my person, quote unquote.
Person. What you see is what you get, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes that's all you need,
Yeah.
right? When you are looking at kind of self-reflecting right now,
Mhm.
are you happy with where you are?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I really wish that the divorce was already over and done with, but it'll be there when it gets there. That's one thing I've learned is well, I'll say I've kind of learned it is to be patient.
Mhm.
Divorce is not a quick process. For people, it could go. I know I've heard that it can go on for years, but
I think inevitably it takes longer than you want it to. I think
exactly,
that's absolutely
exactly. It's
true.
like I was ready to have the divorce over finished within 3 months.
Mhm.
And I was celebrating that this was going to happen.
Mhm.
I was very, very disappointed.
Very disappointed. That is true. That is true. Mhm.
But it is what it is, and I think we're to the point where I'm ready. I don't know
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
about
Mhm.
so, but
Mhm.
okay, wrap it up.
I'm going to ask you this, Diane. We've talked about your past self. We've talked about what note, what message would you give young Diane?
Mhm.
What note today would you give to your future self? What do you want to look back in 5 years and say, when I was doing that podcast with Borman, I thought to myself this. Keep that in mind.
To look at my future self and say
Mhm.
that future self will have done so much, will have accomplished so much.
Mhm.
Um, there is no end in sight as to what I can do.
Mhm.
There is so looking at that future self, I see nothing but successful emotionally and mentally, just in whatever I endeavor to do, whether I fail at it or not. I'm going to be happy.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it's just that it's inevitable that we will fail at things in our life, but we have to take that failure and move on
Mhm.
and turn it into a positive. And I mean, I'm looking forward to the failures as much as the wonderful times and the things that I plan on doing.
Well, I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me today,
Well,
Diane.
thank you.
You've been
very
wonderful.
much. Yeah.
You're a darling.
Love
Thanks.
you.
And thank you so much for joining us today for the podcast. Straight talk and honest advice. We'll be back next time.
Produced by Podcast Architects.